Here's a truth that might sting a little. You don't have a motivation problem. You have a discipline problem. And look, I get it. You've tried the morning routines, the cold showers, the vision boards, but nothing sticks, right? That's because you've been building discipline completely wrong. You've been fighting your own brain instead of working with it. Today, I want to talk to you about something I've spent decades studying, why some people develop unshakable warrior level discipline while others keep hitting snooze every single morning. The difference isn't willpower, it's not genetics, it's a system. And over the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how to build it in 100 days. Years ago, I found myself in a hotel room in Singapore, completely exhausted. I just bombed a presentation, forgot half my material, stumbled through the rest. And I remember sitting on that bed thinking, Allan, you've written books about reading people, understanding behavior, but you can't even get yourself together. That was my wake-up call. See, I'd been studying human behavior for years, watching how people communicate, how they succeed, how they fail, but I'd missed something obvious. The most successful people I'd ever met, the ones who built empires, changed industries, they weren't smarter than everyone else. They weren't luckier. They had something different. They'd trained themselves to do hard things when they didn't feel like it. They'd built discipline like a muscle. And here's what I realized. Discipline isn't about punishment or suffering. It's about creating systems that make success almost automatic. Your brain wants to help you, but you've got to give it the right instructions. Let me explain what I mean, because this changed everything for me. And I believe it can change everything for you too. Let's be honest for a second. Most of us wake up every single day with the best intentions. We go to bed thinking, tomorrow I charge, tomorrow I start. And then what happens? The alarm goes off, you hit snooze. Not once, 3 times, maybe 4. And by the time you finally drag yourself out of bed, you're already behind, already stressed, already making excuses. Sound familiar? Yeah, I thought so. Here's what I've noticed after decades of studying human behavior. The gap between who we want to be and who we actually are isn't about desire. Everyone wants to be successful. Everyone wants to be fit, wealthy, respected, but wanting something and doing the work to get it. Those are two completely different animals. Some of you probably set a goal last January. Maybe it was to get in shape. Maybe it was to start that business. Maybe it was just to read more books. And now, well, let's just say the gym membership is collecting dust. The business idea is still in your head. And that book has been sitting on your nightstand since February with the bookmark on page 37. I'm not judging you. I've been there more times than I'd like to admit. See, here's the problem nobody talks about. We've been sold this lie that motivation is the answer. That if you just watch enough inspirational videos, read enough quotes, attend enough seminars, somehow you'll transform into this unstoppable machine of productivity. But motivation is a liar. It shows up when it feels like it, usually when you don't need it, and disappears the moment things get hard. Motivation is that friend who's really fun at parties but never helps you move apartments. You can't build a life on motivation, and yet we keep chasing it. We keep waiting to feel like doing the work. We keep waiting for the right moment, the right energy, the right mood. Let me tell you something I've observed in 30 plus years of watching successful people. They rarely feel like doing what they do. They just do it anyway. That's the difference. That's the entire game. I remember interviewing this entrepreneur in Melbourne, a guy who built a massive company worth hundreds of millions. I asked him, what's your secret? What motivates you? And he laughed. He said, Allan, I haven't felt motivated in years. I just have systems. I have discipline. Motivation is for amateurs. That stuck with me. Now, some of you might be thinking, but Allan, I've tried being disciplined. I've tried forcing myself. It doesn't work. And I hear you. Because here's the thing. What most people call discipline isn't discipline at all. It's punishment. It's suffering. It's white knuckling through life like you're holding your breath underwater. That's not sustainable. That's not how the warriors do it. Real discipline feels different. It's not about fighting yourself every single day. It's about building a system where the right choices become automatic, where you don't have to think about whether to go to the gym, you just go, where you don't debate whether to work on your goals, you just work. But here's why most people fail. They try to change everything at once. They wake up one Monday and decide, I'm going to work out, eat clean, wake up at 5, meditate, journal, read, and learn a new language. By Wednesday, they're exhausted. By Friday, they're back on the couch eating pizza and watching Netflix. I've watched this pattern play out thousands of times. In boardrooms, in living rooms, in my own life. The intention is there. The follow-through isn't. And the worst part, every time you fail, you chip away at your self-trust. You start believing you're someone who doesn't finish things, someone who can't commit, someone who will never change. That belief becomes a prison. And most people don't even realize they've locked themselves in. Look, I'm not here to make you feel bad. That's not the point. The point is this: if you've struggled with discipline, it's not because something is wrong with you. It's because you've been using the wrong approach. You've been trying to overpower your brain instead of reprogramming it. And that's exactly what we're going to fix. All right, let me share something that completely changed how I think about discipline. Years ago, I was studying body language patterns in athletes, world-class performers, Olympic champions, that sort of thing. And I noticed something strange. These people weren't more talented than everyone else. Many of them were average, physically speaking. But there was something different about how they carried themselves, something in their posture, their eye contact, their micro expressions. They had what I call certainty. Not arrogance, not confidence in a shallow way, but a deep, quiet certainty that they would do what they said they would do. You could see it in their body language before they ever opened their mouths. They moved like people who kept promises to themselves. And here's the insight that hit me: discipline isn't about willpower. It's about identity. Let me explain what I mean. Most people approach discipline as a battle. I want to eat the cookie, but I shouldn't eat the cookie, so I'll use willpower to resist the cookie. That's exhausting. And eventually willpower runs out. But disciplined people, they don't fight that battle at all. They've made a decision about who they are. They've said, I'm not someone who eats cookies at midnight, or I'm someone who shows up to the gym, or I'm someone who does the work. See the difference? One is a fight, the other is a fact. When you shift from I'm trying to be disciplined to I am disciplined, everything changes. You're not resisting temptation, you're simply being yourself, and that takes almost no effort. Here's an analogy that might help. Think about something you'd never do, like something that's completely outside who you are. For me, I'd never steal from a shop. It's just not something I do. I don't have to use willpower to stop myself from shoplifting. It's not even on my radar. Why? Because Allan steals things isn't part of my identity. Now imagine if discipline worked the same way. Imagine if skipping workouts or procrastinating on important work just wasn't something you did, wasn't who you were. That's the shift. That's the game changer. But here's where most people get stuck. They say, Allan, that sounds great, but I've spent 30 years being undisciplined. I can't just decide to be someone else. And I get it, I really do. But here's what I've learned: identity isn't fixed. It's built through small actions repeated over time. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, even a tiny one, you're casting a vote for the person you want to become. Every morning you wake up when you said you would, every workout you complete, every hour of focused work, those are all votes. And eventually those votes add up to a new identity. The mistake people make is thinking they need to overhaul their entire life overnight. They try to go from zero to hero in a week. But identity doesn't work that way. It's gradual. It's cumulative. You don't climb a mountain in one leap. You take 1,000 small steps, and somewhere along the way you become a mountain climber. Now let me address the objection I know some of you are thinking. Allan, what if I start small and then never get bigger? What if I stay stuck at the tiny level forever? Fair question. And here's my answer: I've never seen it happen. Not once. Because here's the beautiful thing about discipline: it compounds. Once you prove to yourself that you can keep small promises, you naturally want to keep bigger ones. Once you taste what it feels like to trust yourself, you want more of that feeling. Discipline creates momentum, and momentum creates transformation. But you have to start. That's the key. You have to start with something so small you can't fail. I tell people, if you want to build a meditation habit, start with one breath, one conscious breath every morning. That's it. Can you do one breath? Of course you can. Anyone can do one breath. And here's what happens. After a week of one breath, you'll naturally want to do 2, then 5, then 10 minutes. Not because you're forcing yourself, but because you're becoming someone who meditates. That's the shift from forcing to becoming. All right, let's get practical, because philosophy is great, but at some point you need a roadmap. Here's the 100-day system I've developed after years of studying human behavior and testing this on myself and others. First, pick your non-negotiable. Not 10 things, not 5 things, one thing. One behavior that, if you did it every single day for 100 days, would transform your life. Maybe it's 30 minutes of exercise. Maybe it's 2 hours of focused work on your most important project. Maybe it's reading for 20 minutes. Whatever it is, make it specific, make it measurable, and make it something that actually matters. Here's the thing: Most people fail because they spread themselves too thin. They try to build 10 habits at once and end up building none. But the disciplined person, they go deep, not wide. They master one thing before adding another. For instance, when I was trying to write my first book, I didn't try to become a morning person, a fitness junkie, and a writer all at once. I just committed to writing for 1 hour every single day. No excuses, no exceptions. That was my one thing. Second, to create your trigger. Your brain loves patterns. It loves when action A leads to action B. So instead of relying on motivation to remember your habit, attach it to something you already do. I call this habit stacking. After I pour my morning coffee, which I'm going to do anyway, I sit down to write. After I brush my teeth at night, I read for 15 minutes. The existing habit becomes a trigger for the new one. This is body language for your schedule. Just like certain postures trigger certain emotions, stand tall and you feel confident, certain triggers create automatic behaviors. Third, make failure impossible for the first 2 weeks. This is critical. The first 14 days of any new discipline make the bar ridiculously low, embarrassingly low. Want to exercise? Commit to 5 push-ups, not 50. 5. Want to meditate? 1 minute, literally 60 seconds. Want to write 1 paragraph? Why? Because the goal isn't to get results in week 1. The goal is to prove to yourself that you can show up, that you're someone who keeps commitments. Once that identity is established, you can raise the bar. 4th, track visibly. Get a calendar, physical, not digital. Every day you complete your non-negotiable, mark it with a big red X. Put that calendar somewhere you'll see it constantly. I know it sounds simple, almost childish, but here's what I've observed. Visible progress creates motivation. Watching that chain of X grow gives you something to protect. You don't want to break the chain. You don't want to see a gap up. This is using your brain's natural tendencies in your favor. We're visual creatures. We respond to what we see. Use that. 5th, plan your obstacles. Look, I'm a realist. Life is going to get in the way. You'll get sick. You'll travel. You'll have emergencies. And if you don't have a plan for those moments, they'll derail you. So before you start, ask yourself, what are the 3 most likely things that could stop me? And what's my backup plan for each? For example, if my non-negotiable is morning exercise, but I have an early flight, my backup is doing 10 minutes of bodyweight exercises in my hotel room. Not ideal, but I still kept my promise. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is never 0. Even on your worst day, do something ever small. That maintains the chain. Here's what to avoid. Don't announce your goals to everyone. I know that sounds counterintuitive. You've probably heard that accountability helps, but research shows that when you tell people about your goals, you get a psychological reward before you've actually done anything. Your brain feels like you've already accomplished something, and that can actually reduce your motivation to follow through. Keep it quiet. Let your results speak. Also, don't use guilt as motivation. I see people beating themselves up after they miss a day, thinking that self-punishment will somehow help. It doesn't. It just creates negative associations with the habit you're trying to build. If you miss a day, acknowledge it, understand why, and get back on track immediately. No drama, no spiral, just restart. Now listen, I need to be honest with you. What I've just shared works. I've seen it work for thousands of people. But that doesn't mean it's easy. Building warrior discipline is simple, but simple isn't the same as easy. There will be days when you don't feel like it. Days when your bed is warm, your excuses are convincing, and your goals seem distant and abstract. There will be moments when you question whether any of this is worth it. When the old patterns call to you like an old friend, that's normal, that's expected, and that's exactly when discipline matters most. See, anyone can be disciplined when they feel good. When energy is high and motivation is flowing, consistency is easy. But the real test, the warrior's test, is what you do when everything in you screams to quit. I remember a period in my life when everything was falling apart. Business struggles, personal issues, the works, and every morning I had a choice. Stay in bed and feel sorry for myself, or get up and do the work anyway. I won't pretend I was perfect. Some days I chose the bed. Some days the weight was too heavy. But more often than not, I chose the work. Not because I felt like it, not because I was motivated, because I'd made a decision about who I was. And here's what I discovered. Action creates energy. Discipline in dark times doesn't drain you. It actually builds you. Every day you show up when you don't feel like it, you're proving to yourself that your circumstances don't control you, that you're not a victim of your moods or your situation. That's power, real power, the kind nobody can take from you. I've studied body language for decades, and one thing I know for certain is this: your physiology affects your psychology. How you move affects how you feel. And when you force yourself to take disciplined action, even when everything inside resists, you're not just changing your behavior, you're changing your entire state. So yes, it's hard. Yes, there will be setbacks. Yes, you might fail. But here's the question: would you rather have a hard path that leads somewhere meaningful, or an easy path that leads nowhere at all? The discomfort of discipline is temporary. The regret of wasted potential, that lasts forever. So here's where we are. You now understand that motivation is unreliable, but discipline can be built. You understand that it's not about willpower, it's about identity. You have a system one non-negotiable, a trigger, a ridiculously low starting bar, visible tracking and contingency plans. But none of that matters if you don't start. And I mean actually start, not start Monday, not start after the holidays, not start when things calm down. Start today. Start with one small promise to yourself and keep it, because here's what I want you to imagine. Picture yourself 100 days from now. You've shown up every single day. You've built a chain of commitment that stretches back over 3 months. You become someone different, not through some dramatic transformation, but through the quiet accumulation of daily choices. How does that person walk? How do they carry themselves? What's in their eyes when they look in the mirror? I'll tell you certainty. The same certainty I've seen in every truly successful person I've ever studied. The certainty that comes from knowing you keep your word, not to others, to yourself. That person is waiting for you. They exist in your potential, but the only way to reach them is one day at a time, one choice at a time, one small act of discipline stacked upon another. The world is full of people who talk about what they're going to do, who dream big and act small, who waits for the perfect moment that never comes. Don't be one of them. Decide today, right now, who you're going to be. Not next year, not next month. Today, because the warrior isn't born, the warrior is built through discipline, through consistency, through the daily choice to show up when everything says stay down. You have 100 days, you have a system, you have everything you need. The only question left is, will you begin? I believe you will.